Like to call the finance meeting to order. We're going to get started with resolution number 1, authorization for the health department
I'll
to
move it.
contract.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 2, authorization to fill 1 healthy neighborhood
Move it.
specialist.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 3, authorization to in the amount of $107,200,000. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 4, authorization to reappoint David Havison Jr.
Move it.
Second.
Motion in the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 5, authorization to contract with the Stuyvesant Falls Memorial DFW
Move it.
Post
Second.
9593. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 6, authorization to enter an agreement with Greater Hudson Promise Neighborhood.
Move it. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 7, authorization to fill 1 full-time senior transportation aide position.
Move it. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 8, authorization to enter into an agreement with Building Bridges Supervision LLC.
Move it. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 9, authorization to fill 1 full-time social welfare examiner position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 10, authorization to fill 1 full-time
Move
caseworker position. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 11, authorization to fill 1 full-time child support specialist position.
Second.
So you have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 12, authorization for the DHS to spend $49,200,000 of Oasis opioid settlement funding to contract with Columbia
Move
Pathways.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 13, authorization to fill 1 vacant community mental health nurse, grade 19.
Move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 14, authorization for the DHS to spend $21,000 of Oasis opioid settlement funding.
Move it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 15, authorization to fill 1 vacant behavioral healthcare coordinator.
Move it.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 16, authorization to fill 1 vacant administrative assistant position.
Move it.
Move it. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 17, authorization for the DHS to contract with Daniel Weinberg to provide
Move it.
acupuncture services.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 18, authorization for the Department of Human Services to contract for consultant nursing services. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 19, authorization for DHS to sign letter of agreement with Four Winds Saratoga.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 20, authorization to renew a contract with CDPHB for reimbursement.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public safety, resolution number 21, authorization to
Move
fill
it.
1.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 22, authorization to enter into a contractor agreement with Repeat Business Systems for the lease
Move
of
it.
2.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. 23, I have a question.
Okay.
I don't know, we can go through it first.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 23. Authorization to increase revenue line DA criminal justice discovery reform by $60,000 to fund ADA discovery stipends for the remaining of 2024.
Where's the revenue coming from? It's a grant. From the grant from the state. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We used to call it grant. Criminal
This is-
discovery reform. It probably could say discovery reform grant. Yeah.
It says on the bottom, it says the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Service approves the grant
Grant funds.
But yeah,
Just confused with the revenue. I was
Yeah.
wondering where we were creating
The grant
revenue.
was 200 and something thousand.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
219.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 24, authorization for
Move
the
it.
sheriff.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 25, authorization for the sheriff office to fill one full-time corporal correctional
Second.
officer. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 26, authorization to purchase a tilting skillet braising pan for $18,175.
The one they have now is, they've had since nineteen
I was
eighty-seven.
gonna say it's.
Yeah, and I asked Rob, Rob's like, nah, it's okay. So we have a motion in a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. $18,000 pan.
Basically what it is, yes. It's like a huge pot.
Resolution number 27, authorization for the sheriff's office to enter into an municipal agreement with
Move it.
Skylar.
Second.
Motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 28, authorization to enter into a data exchange addendum to the master service agreement with Global Tellink, DBA Bypass Technologies, to provide telephone services and IP-enabled tablets
Move
to
it.
the incarcerated individuals. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 29, authorization to move one full-time assistant public defender currently covered under the Huring.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. County government, resolution number 30, authorization to enter into a 2-year contract with enhanced voting.
Move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 31, authorization to fill one full-time personal assistant due to a resignation, annual salary, $63,500. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 32, authorization to fill one clerk typist position for a 90-day term at an hourly rate of $22.76 per hour.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 33, authorization to reappoint Alina Mosley as
Move
Civil
it.
Service Commissioner. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 34, authorization to fill one part-time clerk typist position due to a resignation.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 35, authorization for the MIS Department to accept a grant from
Move
the
it.
department.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 36, authorization for the corporate compliance officer to adopt and update Columbia County policies and
Move it.
supporting documents.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Which,
Opposed?
by the way, shall be
Carried.
coming to a future board meeting. We'll go through them all, but they're quite extensive.
Okay.
Yes.
Resolution number 37,
Move it.
authorization.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 38, authorization
Move
for,
it.
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 39, authorization to enter into an agreement with Repeat Business Systems for equipment leases at a monthly cost of $81.98 for a 5-year term. We have a motion and a second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public Works, resolution number 40, authorization. The Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 41, authorization to purchase, replace the card access system
Move it.
throughout the buildings.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 42, authorization for the chairman of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors to execute all necessary documents and agreements for the implementation and funding of
Move
the
it.
cost of preliminary design.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Economic Development, resolution number 43, authorization to submit an application to the New York State Housing Trust Fund as part of the New York State.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Finance, resolution number 44, authorization to award the bid for meat and meat products.
Move it.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make that motion.
Carried. Yeah, Rick. Get him on the phone. We'll let him make the motion. Resolution number 45.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 46. Authorization
Move
to
it.
award the bid.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 47. Authorization to award the bid for unleaded regular.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 48. Authorization to award the bid for liquid petroleum.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I guess, what's his name was here? Long's got it now, but who used to be there for years?
Nolan.
Nolan.
Nolan, yeah.
Yeah, for,
And he's calling customers like crazy, trying to keep his customers.
yeah. When I seen this, I was like, wow, he lost that one.
And good service to us.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job. Resolution number 49, authorization to appoint Ralph Graziano as pro.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 50, authorization to contract with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield
Move
for
it.
Medicare Advantage Plan.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there anything else they'd like to bring before? Sure.
Hey Kelly,
Yeah, that's
before
what I
full
just
board,
read.
can you mark that Jim approved his own request?
Sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he just did it.
We just did it. We're switching over.
We just did that.
We had multiple advantage. We're switching to one.
Oh, right. Had a savings of.
Priority you get.
And he said, and it says the coverage is.
And the
Yeah.
coverage hasn't changed.
And it's a huge savings.
Really?
Here, but,
Wow.
yes.
I'm sorry.
This is only in an emergency, major emergency.
Yeah, only in.
If we have the manpower to spare to send our deputies.
Well, they send
Why did
people.
we-
everybody on one plan.
Why did we-
I mean, it's get on the phone. They agree.
The thing that I was.
Only in it.
I mean, the town number two.
There really wasn't any real numbers put in.
It's because of Watkins Glen.
Right.
Over the years,
Is it
they've
buying?
been acquiring and staying with them.
Yeah.
Buying power. It's hard sometimes for people to get attached to their plan. Like, we came in and offered a better plan than the town, and the highway guys just pushed back so hard that
This
we
is
let
if
them
they have
get
a
grandfathered.
major, I
Other
think,
plans,
that
it's not very good.
That's why it's just been going on here, you know.
Anthem is Blue Shield.
All right,
It's
we're
Blue
still
Shield. And
recording
they
and
contract with
everything,
every
Okay.
hospital in New York State.
Yeah, we need to.
I'll make a motion to dismiss.
Second. Motion to second, all in favor?
so.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna call the, space utilization to order. Before I do my opening, the chairman asked to have a word with us, so, we'll turn it over to Chairman Morrell.
First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone for being here today. But I just wanted to say that the purpose of this meeting is to review office space, the departments that were recommended to go into the building. It's not to discuss whether we should buy the building, sell the building, or whatever. The purpose is to actually have a working meeting to look at the plans and the recommendations made by our engineer and our architects. So again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to recap a little bit. Back in 2018, the Space Utilization Committee requested a building assessment study identifying existing conditions and future needs of many of our county-owned buildings to be used for future decisions and budgeting development. That study has been used by the Board of Supervisors to develop strategic goals. Last year, our committee requested that our county engineer conduct a department needs assessment, as that had not been completed since about 2009. In assessing this acquired information, we had several priorities. One, to relocate existing departments out of 610 State Street, as we felt that building had outlived its useful life to the county. Second was to find an improved location for our Board of Elections department, which has grown substantially over the past 10 years or so due to new state regulations. With full board support, in August of last year, the Board of Supervisors acquired 11 Warren Street for the purpose of relocating county office space to this new location to better serve the county's needs. Following a successful RFP, the county engaged the services of S3 Design to assist us with renovations to accommodate our office space needs. We provided S3 Design with the results of our department needs assessment. They furthered that by taking the needed time to meet with all of our involved department heads, to better understand each department head's needs, develop plans that would provide us plans that could satisfy our department's needs and make this renovation code compliant for a successful renovation. Now I'd like to turn it over to our county engineer, Ray Krakowski.
Thank you. So just wanted to provide a brief introduction. We have Tom Davis with S3 Design, part of the design team, and Paul McCurry, the engineer of record on the project, working with S3 Design. So as Supervisor Knight had indicated, we had gone through an RFP process. Each one of the consultants and within the RFP package was the questionnaires that were compiled by various departments that we initially had identified to get relocated into 11 Warren Street. So they had that background information. Once they were awarded the contract, one of the next steps that took place was for an actual interview with each one of the departments, as well as conducting a site visit in their current location. So that way they could obtain better information as far as their operation as well. So again, it goes a little beyond just the questionnaire, and it allowed them to put eyes on how they were operating within their spaces. So as we identified, and as I presented in my presentation to the full board back in January, one of the main goals and primary goals regarding 11 Warren was for Board of Elections to be relocated into that space. In addition to 610, looking at relocating probation and public defender's office, and a secondary goal was looking at the DA. So those were the items and the questionnaires and information that was provided to the architect. I had received input from supervisors indicating a concern regarding the DA's office. So therefore, relocating to this location. So therefore, the DA's office moving into the building was taken off the table. And I had the design team concentrating on providing the needs for the remaining departments, primarily the Board of Elections, probation, and public defenders. When looking at the space and looking at the needs, Board of Elections, one of the things that we wanted to do was obviously not only look at the office space, like how they utilize that space, but their storage needs. Because right now, the equipment currently is located in the basement of 401, which has been problematic. So providing better space for them to not only store, but actually work on the equipment as well. Because right now, any time that they have to work on it, they have the employees and staff members go down into the basement, take them away from their desks and so forth. So we wanted to create a better situation for the staff to be able to work on the machine in a centralized location within one building, rather than putting it on multiple floors. In addition to that, it was identified that this particular building, as far as the way some of the architecture currently is laid out, that it provides the ability for early voting. Again, rather than having Board of Elections be required to go to a different location, we wanted to incorporate early voting into this spot as well. So that actually expanded upon the space that I had originally allocated for Board of Elections. So the design team will go over those items. In reviewing the document, there's also some additional space, office space that's available. And I have some ideas and recommendations that I'd like the committee to consider. And I can review those as we go through the plan set with the design team. The goal of today is to have the committee review the plans. I recognize for the first time seeing these, but to review the plans, this is what's known as the schematic design phase, right? So this is the first step that the architects and designers have taken as far as the information, gathering the information regarding the use, taking a look to see how those departments have been or utilize space, And there will be further tweaks to this. But generally speaking, we think that we're heading in a very good direction. We obviously want the committee to take a look at the plans and provide us at least thumbs up, thumbs down that we're heading in the right direction regarding the space as a whole, as well as the departments moving into that space. Because ultimately, we'd like to be able to get to a point of signing off on the schematic design, then the design team can work towards creating budget and working towards design development as well. After we go through the design set, I also have a few items as far as the next steps, which I'll go into, and then also provide an update to the committee regarding some of the things that I've been working on with respect to the DA's office as well. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to Tom Davis, so that way we can go ahead and
Good afternoon, and we would like to, on behalf of the design team, we'd like to thank you for this opportunity, working with you on the project. I don't know if it's gonna be easier for me to walk through on the table. Would you like me to go up and point and then walk it through that way? Whatever's.
I think that everybody could see easier that way.
I studied for this one.
Good little point. No, I can't guarantee I'm gonna hit everything.
Thank you.
There's stairs up there. I have. Just to get up there safely.
And just so everyone knows, the departments were very cooperative and gave us a lot of good information. So that's what got us to be able to tick things off as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
So the first one we're gonna look at is, this is the existing building. Inside 18,000 plus, outside foundation is probably closer to the 20,000 square foot. This being Warren Street, this being the alley, and the river on the left. Two things in the RFP and working with the committees is the RFP more direction is how much of the building can we use today without doing major modifications. So this diagram here is indicating the areas that we're not really doing major partition moves. So it's going to stay pretty much partitioned the way it is. Now, granted, we're going to be painting, we're going to be doing new finishes, but the big work of partitions and all that we're utilizing in our new design. The second is one central secure area for as many departments as we can utilize. And we'll go through that. And actually the building and the plan worked out really well that way. So this one here would be, the red lines are indicating areas that are not or minimally being touched. And that's the area over here, which is pretty much the same exact layout that's down here today. That's the former, I think, Galvin's housing offices. I believe they went as far as back as here. So there's office space, toilet facilities in there. Also over here, this is an electric room data communication that we're not touching. We're actually expanding it so it's accessible from the outside. It's blocking up the doors and making them one, and that's for the whole building. This area here is going back to pretty much when co-work was there. These are the existing toilet rooms, men's and women's janitor's closet, and I believe fire data communications in that room. These areas again, these two areas specifically is pretty much clean, polished, and move on. They're ready in good condition. This is the location of the sprinkler room that we're not touching. This area here is the main entry to the building today. I don't know if you're familiar with the building. When the school was built, this became the main entry to the school. These walls here are all there with the door, we're modifying some doors. And this reception, enclosed reception with glass and a little storefront, secure, is already there and maintained. We're going to maintain that. And you'll see in the large plans of the departments what it looks like. This area here is outside. I think again, this is a telephone spot. Storage room up to there. On a different opportunity for people, over here, this area is 2 existing toilets that were there before the school went in. We're keeping them. Oh, I'm sorry. We updated those during the school renovation. This is a break room that was done during the school renovation, and 2 handicap toilets and a portion of the old classroom. Pretty much again, maintaining and keeping. So you can see by proportion, we're in, doing as much as we can to save the money on the budget and, decrease the overall scope and, work. So now we'll go into, we can jump to the next one. This is actually the same plan, but it's color coordinated. So the colors are delineating the department. So as you enter the main entry, that's the existing entry reception area. That's what is called, we're calling the secured common area. So this will have the deputies, the sheriffs here with their proper security that you have today. But it's allowing the entry, and it worked out really well by existing construction and where it's located in the center of the building. It allows the secure area, and in this area here is going to be the greeter for probation offices and public defender's office. And we'll walk through, again, there's another slide that actually brings up the departments to scale, so you can actually see the departments. So you come into the main door, you meet security, you go through a secure door, and now this is the public defender's office with their initial program that was given in the RFP and with our meetings and developing, speaking with all the members of the different departments. This is the program that we came up through those meetings. The red area here is delineating an additional office space available. The green areas over here are common, which are common to the whole building. If you come into the security common area, get buzzed through and greeted. The blue area here is all the probation offices, the whole department all laid out. Again, the green area here is the 2 toilet rooms are common to the whole building. And in the probation offices, there is 2 additional spaces available. The Board of Elections has two means of getting into the building. Main entrance to the main offices would be currently through the existing door at the top of the building. In here is, the waiting, your office space. Middle's more storage, activities. One of the things we did learn at the Board of Elections is they do a lot of things. And we're still trying to figure it out.
They have
Very
a bunch
busy.
of
A
equipment.
lot of stuff, a lot of, building from the beginning to the end of an election. So we'll walk through that area there. So that's the main entrance to the business side. And then as Ray was speaking about earlier, was the multi-purpose entry. This is the room, the space that's available to do the actual early voting, and also special uses for classes, training, and bringing in and servicing all this equipment into that room and using, the areas around there. Also, it was this whole, I don't know if people are familiar with it, but this line right here going down around, it's all covered entry. So this space between here, the wall of the building and the roof, probably about 10 feet. So that's all covered from the weather during voting season. And if you get, lined out here, you're all covered. Can you jump to the next one? So now we'll go into the actual departments and how they laid out with the program. This being the public defender, we come into the main area, that common reception, secure vestibule, reception area. There's the sheriff's department here, you've got your security elements here, a little waiting area. This is what we call the public defender and the probation department greeter. This is where the public would come in, go through, go up there, introduce themselves, find out which way they're going. That greeter would call ahead into the correct department, and that person would come out and bring them in through a secure door into the public defender. So in here we have the additional space that's available. Come down to the right, we have we have a janitor's closet. We have a public conference room, which I believe is used for the public and for Zoom. I think it was they do
Virtual court, yeah, they did
Right.
virtual court in the smaller.
Yep, the smaller room. To the right, also next, yep, up and in is the staff conference room. That's where they prepare for trial and they have all the paperwork laid out. To the left is the administrative assistance area. Again, these would be cubicles, which is similar to, I believe, the low profile, like DSS that they have. And the number of seats, desks, is in correlation to what each department is asking for. So if they're asking for eight seats or 8 cubicles, we got it all stuffed in here. There's really nothing, I don't think we provided any extra available. Then down here, you come down the corridor, main corridor. These walls here are what we call movable office partition walls. So cubicles 4 foot tall. These are actually probably 7.5 foot tall, possibly going to the underside of structure or ceiling, but they're all movable. So in theory, this is one large open area with architectural landscape. Similar again, you go to the DSS. We're actually talking to the same vendor to bring that in to this facility. You would have an office space coming down. You have the existing area for the staff. The administrative assistants have their own area for copying and layout. Existing women's room. This is the existing break room with a kitchenette unit and 2 handicap toilets. You make a right, you're going into an office space. Actually, these are hard walls, so that's a full office space. And this is the actual public defender's office, and you would have a secondary means of egress for entry, private entry, and for egress, fire egress. We go to the next one.
Oh, my apologies. So going back to that last slide,
Sure.
that extra space, one of the,
This area.
yeah, one of the departments that I thought might be able to move into that, if it's available, would be the stop DWI department, because that's just a single person that's currently here within 401. So again, just for the committee.
Can you clarify which space that was? That was the red one?
Yes,
That's the red
that
one
was the red,
on
yes.
the small colored one.
Okay, thank you.
So on the other side, this is the probation department, again, using that center area of the building, coming into the security reception through the sheriff's deputies, to the greeter, they get greeted, staff comes out and meets them. In this particular one, they have different needs and different uses for space. So this actually coming in through a secure door, still in a secure corridor with the public. And in here, we have 3 interview rooms where the public enters this way, staff is in the secured area, comes through, goes to the door, and there's glass with an opening to have conversations. Also in the secure public corridor is the testing toilet room with an observation for that process. And again, that's off the secured side of the staff. Then you come through the actual secure door into the unsecured probation offices. There's administrative assistants here to greet you. There's a storage room to the right. Keep walking down the corridor. Here is a large file area. If you ever walk through these different departments, there's file cabinets. everywhere they can squeeze them in. And that was actually the big thing was file and storage. We kept on hearing that through all the different departments. Here would be the commissioner's office. The right would be your public conference room. Continuing down, this is the area that we were talking about that we're saving. You claim from the existing building. Data storage, janitor's closet, electrical room. There's the panels for this space. This employee room. To the left, you again have the high wall landscape partitions for office space. And then you have the low open area, and these are the low 4-foot cubicles. So again, this whole area could be when you get there, small with movable stuff that you can break down, reconfigure, and move on to the next plan configuration. Again, more files.
Right here, there's any consideration.
We got to jump over the back one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you said to move to the next one. Sorry.
I thought this mattered with it.
Yeah.
To the right here is a locker safe storage. This particular unit does have secure storages for different elements of their project or their jobs, and the staff lockers. And this is I forget what color this
Dark
is.
blue.
Is it dark blue?
Is
So
it
that's
dark
the
blue?
additional office space available. It's this area right here, and across the hall, it's this area, another office space, and then continue on and going out the back door. Again, could be used for security, for private, bringing in whatever, but mainly as a fire escape for your second English.
On those 3 additional office spaces, the small red, the small blue, and the big blue, do they have their own entrances, or would they need to go through the probation department? Or through-
So the red is in the public defender's secure area. So they basically come in to the greeter and go to the right door. And the blue would come in through the door, greet and go through the secured corridor to the unsecured and then down the corridor.
So one's within the public defender and 2 are within probation without external access. It would be coming through those offices to get to their offices.
Yes.
At this time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The secured office spaces with the glass windows, those are for what
These-
use?
These here,
Yeah,
this is for the interviewing the public, and this would be basically a probation
so that's
officer.
where folks would meet with their probation officers.
I believe so. That's
Yes.
the idea that we were informed.
We don't think that that's a little insensitive to folks that are just coming home from incarceration to have jail style visiting rooms with their probation officers.
So we had discussed, with the probation department, the concept of this, again, because it's a similar layout to what's currently utilized in the Department of Social Services. So if you walk into the Department of Social Services building, they have a very similar setup as far as their interviews.
But a lot of their folks that are being served at social services are not just coming home from interacting with the criminal justice system. That's like a huge step closer to helping somebody not be able to get out of the mindset of inciting. I think that we can do a better job of providing spaces for folks to meet with their probation officers with the intention that they're not going to incite.
So keep in mind, what we're providing for is the initial secure area and that initial contact. The probation officers have the ability of escorting any other client, whether it's someone on probation or anyone else, back into a conference room that they have just off of that area. So that's the reason for the conference room being located very close to that area as well.
That, it sounds great, but is that going to be the way that it's carried out, or will, like, with it being set up that way, the intention seems that that is where folks will meet with their probation officer? How can we ensure that it'll be best practice for the probation officer to then escort the person to a regular conference room? Is my concern.
Well, I believe that up to probation as far as their operation.
And I think it was a design thing, something that we should really strongly consider changing.
So keep in mind, after we meet as a committee today, one of the things that I'll be doing is actually going back to each one of the departments and just having them, review the plans. So obviously, for the department heads to look at the overall floor plans, most of them don't read floor plans, so I'd like to take the time to go through that with them. And so I'll bring up the item that you're concerned regarding, how that currently is laid out. I know that when we had our initial discussion with probation, we specifically identified the concept of this type of an arrangement, similar to DSS, and they had indicated at the time that that would be acceptable. That being said, I will take the comment back and we'll take a look at that later.
Thank you. I just think that as supervisors that are coming up with a plan, we have a responsibility to talk about ways in which we can help people reacclimate into the community. And this is one of those services that folks should not feel like they're still participating in something that's to set them up for failure.
Understand.
And Claire, just a suggestion too, maybe you could also meet with probation, because I think that it sounds like requests are coming from them. So whatever the head of probation wants as far as a setup, and if you talk directly to them about why it's important, I'm sure Ray's not gonna go, no, we don't want it that way, if that's coming directly from them, so it might be good to advocate.
I'll reach out. I would love to be engaged in this process since this building is in my ward.
But I also think that you're just looking at space allocation now, but
Right.
outfitting the space could vary.
Yeah, again, this is our first
Right.
go at it. You know, this is the first layout as far as allocating the space and so forth. We fully recognize that as we go through design development, which there'll be further detail, and again, potentially, hopefully some smaller rearrangement, if anything. And then going to full design documents. I mean, that is all part of the process. So obviously, we do want to obtain that feedback, from the supervisors, but obviously from the department heads as well.
I have a
The
question.
area that was identified, regarding the blue area, the two areas. So one of my thoughts were the potential of, relocating the conflict defender and 18B, members into that particular space. So currently they're right now on the third floor of 401. They actually had taken over the old classroom and testing location, that the county utilizes. So it'd be nice to be able to get that space back. So that was just some of the consideration of perhaps, putting them down, and relocating them into 11.
Ray Linda has a question.
I have a question. I know there are, the sheriff's office attends each, like where are each officer placed in this plan? And how many are there?
If we can go back one slide. The staffing issue, that would be up to how the county and the sheriffs work that out. So that's the idea.
Which is one?
Right here.
Is that one?
I would believe. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, there's at least one. Again, it'll be up to the county and the sheriff department to see how they want to staff it. Right now, the layout provides for more than one, but I think currently at the probation.
Yeah, we kind of took the cue of that entry from, what's the courthouse? How do you go in? There's the tables where you stick your stuff in, they slide it through, and there's deputies there. DSS building is kind of that way. Here's doesn't have the tables and that doesn't have the actual metal detectors, but it's the same kind of idea as where you enter, there's a table, you put your stuff on, you walk through the metal detector, and then they slide in that bucket through there, and you meet everything on the other side. So it's the same concept and same idea that's happening in the county and other county buildings.
Theoretically, probation and public defender's office, there's usually two officers, and they use a magnetometer. So that you have to walk through the magnetometer. The reason for the two officers is if something is found, there's still an officer there. That would ideally be the way it would operate, if we're up to appropriate staffing.
So everybody would walk through the magnetometer at the entry.
That, for those two departments, the Board of Elections is a separate entry.
So they don't have a security person.
Not at.
But they
not
could be
at their-
called.
Yeah,
They-
not at their location, but we'll go over that security for that area, when we get to that department. But yes, you are correct. They don't have a security right in their lobby, area. But again,
Right.
we'll go into that, because one of the things that we did implement within this particular layout is a continuous hallway, to be able to get throughout the entire building, including the Board of Elections. So although, again, the Board of Elections may not have a security person right in their own department, in their lobby, security would be able to go through the building without having to go to the outside to be able to get over into that Board of Elections.
To Ray's point, and to show exactly, so you would come in, if you were going into the public defender's office and you need to get to probation or the common corridor to get down to the Board of Elections, there is passage doors between departments within the secured areas, behind security. So probation and becoming the public defenders, if they need to get down here to the common spaces and vice versa, they can travel through.
Yeah, and so also, just a point to make at this point would be keeping in mind when we're doing the project as a whole, the thought would be is that we'll work with a fob system for the exterior doors as well as many of the interior doors as well. So that way we'll be able to control access of employees or staff members having access to various areas within the building as well.
Yeah, and I have another question about the handicap bathrooms. I mean, I only see, is there just one in this plan?
There is multiple.
Multiple, yeah.
Actually,
Well,
these
there-
are two in the public defender's area.
One,
These are
two,
two,
there's four now. Two more.
in these two existing toilet
Down.
rooms, there's handicap stalls and sinks. Down at into the area of probation, there's handicap toilet rooms there. And then there is also new handicap toilets within the Board of Elections.
I guess the
As well as the
distinction
lobby,
between,
my apologies, also the
Also,
lobby.
I'm sorry, you're correct. Also,
lobby.
Yeah.
in the common secured area, there is two public toilet rooms.
yeah, that was the question. It was very confusing. Like, there's the public and then there's the staff.
Correct.
So the
Staff
public,
slash any
okay.
public that comes back.
At least eight, I think, in the whole.
So there is
Yeah,
public
there's-
toilet room facility right in the secured area. So if your appointment and you're waiting for your appointment, there is the availability of facilities.
Speaking of the common areas and bathrooms, is there a reason that all of the bathrooms throughout the building seem to be common areas except the Board of Elections? Is the goal to make the public walk from the Board of Elections all the way down?
No.
The other-
No,
They have their own-
they have their own bathroom.
No, I understand that, but every other toilet is called common, which to me means the public can go in. The Board of Elections.
No,
are-
I think the word common was used as in common to
Staff.
behind the security.
And that's what's
The secured
confusing.
area. Public will not be able to get through there to go to that toilet room.
Yeah,
In the public spaces where the public comes in, reception area, there's this common area, and when we get to the Board of Elections, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
let's see.
There is public toilet room
Right, yeah.
from the from
We can say we moved that
the
one wall.
secured side.
Right, and
We're gonna
on
move that
page
one
2, every single one of those is green and labeled common with the exception of the Board of Elections. So I'm not understanding why if the bathrooms in the Board of Elections are also for the public. Why are they not common?
Let's do that page when we get.
yeah, so my use of the term common when laying this out, and that was the term that I used, with the design team. When I use the term common, whether it's a common, bathroom or whether it's a common break room, I'm looking at it as being common to, multiple departments, more than one department. So
That's what's
again,
confusing.
in those instances, the bathroom as well as the break room, the thought process is that the break room would be common to.
So the Board of
more than one.
Elections can use the public defender's bathrooms, but the public defender staff.
Again, we have not gotten that far yet. We can have that discussion because again, we're following the system. So we can provide that because there is another set of bathrooms, located off of the, early voting area that are going to be available
Right.
quote, to the public. So, if there's no other questions right now, maybe we can just go to that,
Sure.
Yeah, that'll.
to that slide and maybe that'll help clarify some of
Yeah.
that as well.
So So kind of going in the direction of the questions. So the public entrance is the existing entrance to this area, which is the old Galvin Housing Authority offices, I believe. You come in here, and again, majority from here down is existing. So we're kind of utilizing the same spaces for the same tasks. In here is the existing lobby area. This is all built cabinetry, which is like a staff size low, countertops high for the public. We are introducing a hard wall with a door for security reasons. We're also, probably in the future, as we go forward, again, these are conceptual schematic, meaning everything is private. These aren't the final design. Adding a handicap toilet room that is accessible off the lobby area for the public waiting in the secured area. We have an existing conference room we're utilizing. Coming through the new door is the reception area, low counter storage. Storage below, to the right, to your right would be the commissioner's offices. And these would be deputy commissioner for the deputy commissioner. And in their space, they do have 2 spare offices for their program. And we did open up this area here for the receptionists and their cubicles. I believe this staff works at these stations. If public comes in or needs assistance, they also work the counter, if I remember right with the program. Coming down here, we have a handicap ramp.
Oh, actually, my apologies, from a security standpoint, let me just go back up to the lobby area. So currently, the way that area is laid out, someone can enter the front door, go into a small vestibule. The next door, actually, they have to be buzzed in. And it's the intention that would remain, obviously, we would provide a newer locking system, okay, along with a fob. But again, that would provide security. And again, they would be able to speak with the person at the counter to allow them into the space. Okay, so again, that's one of the ways that we're dealing with security in this particular space. And I've reviewed that with the Board of Elections. And again, keep in mind, generally, as we have within all of our county buildings through the telephone system, that we do have the panic button as well. That immediately notifies the sheriff's office as far as any particular issue. So again, all of the offices and all the phones within the entire building would be just very similar to what we have in our other county offices. I'm sorry, my apologies.
Anytime you need to. I don't know if you're familiar with the building. This floor elevation out of the rest of the whole building is probably 3 steps higher. So we will have a transition ramp going down to what is called the iPad storage, the ballot assembly. In here, there'll be countertop and a behemoth of a monster. An interesting piece. And this is, I believe, a lot of tests go on in that one particular room. And looking at their existing space and where it's happening, a little tight. Coming down to the left, you do have a means of egress, which again, the perimeter of the whole building, the doors, the entries, the glass is all existing to remain. We might have to upgrade doors just because of wear and tear and years of abuse. Probably rust more of the weather taking the best of them. In here, we do have there's an existing break room in this space, open area, storage area. We have an access to this is an existing toilet we're turning into ballot storage. And off the corridor, we have access to ballots. In here, in the open area, you'll see is we have all these brown area here. So I want to go for a ride here. And down here, are either new voting machines, old voting machines, and voter tablets. So, these are actually on site at 401 today down in the basement.
And in the hallway.
In the hallway.
Looking around.
And it's interesting, I don't know if everybody ever saw how they get those machines out of the old gymnasium.
Don't watch.
Yeah.
Not something you want to talk about.
This is to say it's a steep slope and there's a winch and top. Pull them up the slope. You come back down into this area here. And again, today, from this wall up, pretty much the way it is. From here down, this area here, and this area here, there's actually, this kind of goes like this, the building, and then it kind of goes back here, a wall. This is, used to be, I guess, when it was originally a retail built. This was an access to this tenant space and the electrical. We did enclose it and gather that space into the multi-purpose room. But down here, in this area, this is the voting machine storage room and maintenance. We have over here in that particular room, we have the EMS, the election management server. They are the ones working on the machines. We have the specialists off the corner here, actually on the machines, and maybe working over here, maybe.
Yeah, that's where the ballots will get printed.
Okay. This, I'll be honest, this department is a very interesting, very intricate process and the flow of work to get through. You guys helping us through that. I look forward to continuing. You come into a corridor, this would be a public corridor per se from the multi-purpose room. This would be a secure door from the multi-purpose room into the administrative side. In that corridor, we have two brand new handicap toilet rooms. Going through the door, again, it's not necessarily a secure door. It will be, but it would probably be fobbed and also open when there's training going on, vice versa, to allow access to the toilet rooms. This would be the actual, this is the multi-purpose room and voting, early voting. You would actually, we set it up when you come in the door. There's your ballot table, I believe, and printer cabinets. Coming around the flow, these are actually the voting tables, which I believe we're gonna get new information. You're gonna go to a circular with like a pie shape, quads, okay? That will be updated in the future, and then you flow through to the actual voting machine and then back out the building. We also have storage here for chairs and tables, so when they do have training, you can set this up in the classroom environment. And this is all the existing electrical room, which is a back of house off the back alley, and then there's an egress door out there. One thing we didn't really mention also is when at the beginning, he said we're keeping as much as we can to accommodate the budget. I don't know if everybody remembers that that this was built as a retail center. So it's set up as a strip mall. So if we can go back one slide. Each area, you notice these insets. So actually this column line right here, this column line, this was all set up as individual store tenants. So that's why they have a front door here. Well, it used to be there. This here, and there's a back door here, and off the alley, this was the service to the tenants. So each of these quadrants or tenant has its own ductwork. I mean, its own units on the roof. By the design and the way it's laid out, we are definitely economizing that whole system because it's laying out kind of where we can grab those units and from the unit redistribute the ductwork within it. And it's also kind of falling a little bit with some of the school ductwork that's already in there that was done 8 years ago, I think, 6 years ago. Not to say that the units, we're not replacing the units because they are old. But I would just want to let you know that like each area has its own setup originally. And back here along these little panels, these are actually electrical panels for that area, so we can actually help with the electrical distribution. So there is economy in some of the existing buildings.
What about the, paper files for Board of Elections? Right now, they take up as much, if not more space than the voting machines. Is that gonna be here or are they gonna stay in this building?
So it's just a closed
So,
area.
we go back to that area. What we had discussed- I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead. What we had discussed with, Board of Elections is that, if you
Yeah,
go,
I
there's
think that would
there's
be
an area, the office, or excuse me, the space next to the voting, printers, yes, right in there. There's storage space there, there's, yeah, there's some additional storage space there, and we recognize that, most of that would be, and please, Board of Elections can, correct me if I'm wrong. Board of Elections deals with what they consider to be 2-year storage. There's ballots and there's information that they need to keep for 2 years, and then there's others that, need to be kept for longer periods of time. So it's the 2-year storage that we wanted to keep on site. There's the area downstairs that's currently, I'm gonna call it a cage. We would assume that part of that would still be utilized for Board of Elections.
Okay.
I thought that we had talked about, if you go down a little farther on the screen, in the early voting
Yeah,
area, I thought we had talked about doing a double lock storage area there. as well.
And you can use that as well, correct?
I mean, and also this, once you have like the number of tables you need, the number of chairs, we get the manufacturer that you're gonna be using.
Even
The new styles or design,
I know.
not just as a
Yeah.
3x6 or whatever, they actually, how they store them on the racks. We get the rolling rack system. Once we get all that information, we can design the space around that, and then we can, easily, let's say we can slide this door from here over to here, give you that space with double doors to do all that, and then whatever's left, we can transfer into, cold storage. And this
But
is,
at some point, you'll take a measurement of all those, because it's significant, the amount of. boxes.
absolutely, again, this is,
There may be a
very viable, and this is, the reason we're here is to actually to get this important information back, to develop something that works for the county and the departments, and, it's a group collaborative design.
storage area,
Um,
which is not.
It seems to me that storing all those boxes in this building is a waste of space. That there's perhaps another way to store it in a less expensive place so we could maximize our space better.
Well, maybe short-term and long-term storage,
Yeah, I mean, there's
I think
piles of boxes down there, and it
Well, you
seems to
guys
me
were
like
thinking
putting all
anyway,
those
somewhere.
boxes there is a waste of time.
Yeah,
In the short term.
short-term and
As
then
we
long.
create it, and then we have stuff that can be shredded or destroyed in 2 years.
Right.
Well, in the basement here, if that doesn't have a next plan, you're also getting all the machines out of there, so you're
Right.
actually expanding.
You got quite a bit of room
Files
there.
down there, then that could be, get better shelves and that could become.
It's not a good space for paper.
Yeah, so
It's
my goal is actually, to try to minimize the amount of paper storage, understanding that that's a backup area. I wouldn't want that to be, the primary. So one of the things that I would actually like to use that gymnasium for is for facilities, for parts, equipment, things that they need to have on hand for when an air conditioner may go down or something like that, that they can, for electrical equipment that they can gain access to.
Used to be years ago.
I believe,
Before we did the
I did. But again, that being said, that's part of the
Oh,
reason
yeah.
for those follow-up
Yeah.
discussions with the, the department heads to continue to work on fitting out the spaces.
What's needed on site and what can go off site.
I know initially, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think initially when we did our conceptual walkthroughs through the space, because I've gone, I think, 3 times with the Board of Elections, down into that space, just talking about various ideas. I don't want to speak for you, but I think generally speaking, you felt comfortable that there was enough storage space there for what your needs are going to do.
I think those two areas that we were talking about is, Mara and I were just saying is, more than we have currently.
We have a lot of newspaper before the ballots are printed. We end up with in envelopes and things, but we still think, I mean, this is so much better than what we're dealing with now.
Mm.
And if it's truly outfitted with the correct shelving, like right now, we stack things on the floor.
Mm.
So if things are really built out with heavy duty
Way more efficient.
storage, we
Sure.
can go vertically and that saves us.
Yeah, that's one of the areas. So for instance, where the iPad storage, or what I've been calling the iPad storage room and that copier room, and that's an area, again, there's a lot of involvement. There are a lot of things that take place. I know that's where you would compile the ballots. You obviously do the charging of the iPads and doing, that's an area that we're gonna have to spend a lot of time with you, because there's a lot of fit out that's gonna be involved with that to try to create the most efficient space for, not only for storage, but also for compiling the bags that need to then be, sent off site to the various, election locations.
Are there gonna be a lot of electrical upgrades associated with locating this equipment and charging stations?
Yeah, we've already talked about that, again, based on the initial concept. So again, the voting machines, they need to have drops, as far as connections. So we're thinking, again, in those storage areas, there'll be a lot of drops from the ceiling, so that way they can be connected and charged. Specifically in the iPad area, we've already talked about having counter space available, because each one of those iPads actually sits within a case. We've already talked about creating a very large counter space area with continuous outlets along that counter, so multiple units could be plugged in at any given time. And again, we're going to continue that discussion as well. But yes, we've already started that discussion with the Board of Elections as well.
Great benefit.
What is the available, height, ceiling height?
10 foot, I believe.
I'm trying to remember overall ceiling height.
If you know, well, yeah,
The,
I
the
think
under,
the bottom of,
Oh,
it's
the
a
bottom.
truss roof, a wood truss roof, flat. I think the bottom cord is 12 feet.
yeah, that was my recollection. Yeah.
So
So
you gotta throw a couple feet of ductwork in there. So you could be pushing 9.5 feet of a acoustical ceiling in there.
yeah, currently the
Maybe a little bit more as we get going. Again, if we think thinner on the, we got thin ductwork, we can push up.
yeah, the existing, ceiling heights, in the classroom, which is the majority of that building.
Pretty high.
They're at 10 feet.
Thank you.
I unfortunately have to go to my kid's concert, but,
That's nothing, there's nothing important about
I
that.
know. You're like, good, stop asking questions.
No. No, I'm supposed to be at a lacrosse game myself. So
Got
for my
Just going
senior,
back to those 3 small spaces and your recommendations of stop DWI in the red one and conflict defender and 18B, I assume 18B was the smaller one. Is there a way, either now or as an email to the supervisors, that you could give us all of the options that would fit? Because obviously we have the surveys that show, this office needs this many. So you could say, for the red one, I recommend stop DWI because, however, here's the full list of offices that could potentially go in there. And then the same for the small blue and the big blue.
awesome. Yeah, I'll base it off of square footage.
Right.
That's the simplest way to really start that
Yeah.
concept. So I'll look at the square footage that's currently being occupied by that particular department.
Okay.
And then I'll provide the option.
I assume it's not a ton of options because they're pretty small, but it's, and obviously you might have recommended stop DWI because it fits well with probation. And so, what your reasoning was as to why this recommended over.
Yeah, I mean, as part of, generally speaking, okay, regarding this particular building, we have Board of Elections, so we have probation, we have public defender, conflict defender
Right.
kind of seems to fit.
WI.
Yeah, that was all part of it, thinking of it a bit of the legal building, if you will.
Okay.
But I'll take a look at those and I'll.
Yeah, so they'll come in back and
Yeah,
then.
I mean, these are cubicles. So we can move those anywhere we want.
Tom, you,
It could be over in the city too.
We walked through.
Okay.
2,000 plus square feet.
Make it more
Well, let me,
I
start
mean,
with
you
the
could-
committee members. Do you have any direct questions for Tom or Paul? While they're here.
And to judge us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of going through it.
Digest, you know.
But I think in that interview area, I mean, those are cubicles, right?
The
No, they're-
interviewer, no,
they're
that's,
rooms.
that's.
No, this is not a cubicle here. This is a
No,
hard
that's
wall.
all hard wall.
Hard wall.
That's a secure area.
Okay.
Right, right. If it's what was requested.
So, if we wanted to change, we could probably make some changes in there without going too crazy. These walls, there's not much in there, just,
Yeah, again,
it's still a wall.
if we had to make revisions to
Yeah.
that, by all means, we could.
It's all easy to move lines on paper right now.
Yeah, now's the time to, now's the time to.
I mean,
A lot cheaper now.
I think the public defender's issue needs to be really gone over, so we get that fixed, so it's more conducive to the people that have to, have privacy and an opportunity to feel and
Work with their clients, yes.
work
You're
with
talking
their
about the
clients.
probation or you said public defender?
I'm sorry, probation, sorry,
Oh, probation?
probation.
Public defender is 25 also.
Yeah.
Also, I'd
Yeah.
be curious to know what's gonna happen to the spaces that we're vacating. I know 610, but I'm curious
So
where,
Ray will speak to that. I think you really did.
So if there's nothing else as far as the plan, so again, I'm thinking of, those next steps. So in very short order, as far as, the committee members.
I just got one. I know we talked about this a little bit, but you get the existing men's room, when you get the public defenders and existing women's room down the end there. Then you got two more toilets up on top, the existing ones. We talked a little bit about, do we really need those two?
Yeah,
Like there's four, it seems like right next to one
but
another.
they're all existing.
Could we cap some off though? That's,
We could.
and
But
make
every
this
time-
into another
But
room.
again, once we absolutely could. What, as Tom had indicated and as I had identified within the RFP, I'm always cognizant of the budget. And if the bathrooms, in an office building are the most expensive, again, one bathroom to create from scratch is $25,000 to $30,000. So if their existing infrastructure that was there, I tried
You
to
want
have
that
them.
on- I know you talked about, it. I was just
Yeah.
looking at
But by
that
all means,
space.
By all means, if we needed the space, then yeah, we have more than ample number of fixtures.
Yeah.
For the
Right.
public and offices that are being served as far as the population. That's the way the building code looks at it. The building code looks at the number of employees
Right.
and staff, as well as public, and that's what determines the number of facilities that are required. And we have ample, and we meet that and actually exceed that number. But by all means, as we
Okay.
develop it, we could
Yeah,
look at that.
Just keep it there.
We'll keep it open,
back
yeah,
up,
we'll keep that.
That's all.
I'd also like to know how the parking issue, how are we getting rid of some parking and moving it over here? Are we just expanding the parking? And I don't know if that's been part of the conversation.
So the intent is, so currently the site has 30 parking spaces.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the 610, we lose those and we move them over here. How does this work?
Yeah, so.
Like, are we gaining, losing? Are we getting more cars, more parking for the county?
We're overall, there are gonna be more vehicles than can be, parked onto this particular site. There's no question. We had anticipated, as I had identified in the presentation back in January, that, there's quite a bit of public parking along the street that is available. When you drive down that particular area during the day, during business days, I should say, my apologies, during business days, and business hours, there's actually not a lot of cars that are currently utilizing this on-street parking. So that way would be available to employees.
I think Hudson's gonna, I think that's always an issue about the parking and taking up parking spaces in the city, which has already created a certain amount of frustration and unhappiness in the residents of the city. So I think that needs to be part of this plan. So we
Well-
understand that if you're gonna park on our streets, then I think we need to know at
Well,
this-
I've always identified that they would be parking on the street. There's no question. The benefit is, okay, that unlike other potential commercial businesses, okay, this building is occupied 5 days a week during normal business hours. So again, on weekends, on nights, all of that parking is available for the residents in that area when they're normally at work or someplace else, during the day.
How many spaces are there at 6
I'd have to get that. number. I don't have that.
I think
off.
she's asking what the net. take-
Right.
Yeah, I'll take a look at what the net gain is. Or net loss gain.
Then we have, we're taking parking from here to go there, and if they're opening up parking here too, so.
Yeah, but you're on our main street. That's a big difference.
Any other questions from any other supervisors that are here? We've got a number of people or department heads. As Ray had spoke, he would like to, meet with the department heads in the future and go over these a little more in depth. While we're on that, I know that Tom and Paul have mentioned it, but I do want to thank all the staff for working with our, design team here because, it's been very helpful to get to a somewhat acceptable, program at this point in time. It's
Yeah,
never an easy challenge, so.
and that goes back to even when the questionnaire was put together. All departments were wonderful about getting information back and being part of the process, which is great. So I'd like again, the committee members to get back with any additional comments that you may have. In short order, I'm gonna meet with, the directors of each one of the departments, as far as department heads. And that way we can come to a consensus as far as moving forward with number one, the departments that have been identified. And then number two, as far as the conceptual layout, understanding that layout will continue to develop, but generally speaking, we've hit the mark. Maybe it's not 100%, maybe it's 95%, understanding that we need to make tweaks, we need to do fit outs, we need to move some walls, we need to take into consideration the comments that have been provided and any additional comments that come from the board. But I want to keep this process moving forward so that way I can provide a sign off to the architects that this is the plan that we want to move forward with. And then they can start looking at budgets and then also going into design development where we get into more details as far as how the spaces are, finishes, the mechanical systems, how security is dealt with as far as the lighting system, and we can continue to work on all of this. In addition to that, for the committee, one of the things to consider is, as Supervisor, I believe Mussman has indicated, what about the backfill, so to speak, the backfill of 401? So that's one of the things I'd like the committee members to think about. And I can provide floor plans of the first floor here, as far as what Board of Elections currently is occupying, and that way the committee can start to think about how do we want to backfill the space within 401. As far as departments and so forth. One other item I just want to mention regarding the DA's office. I have spoken to the DA, mentioning that, again, we're not going to be relocating them into this space, but they have their own needs as well, and continued concerns that I have with respect to 325. So one of the issues that we have at 325 with the DA's office is during grand jury, lack of parking, lack of enough handicap parking. And so I reached out to Dave Delahunt, the Office of Court Administration, had a meeting with the chairman, Mr. Delahunt, and the DA's office to see about moving the grand jury back into the courthouse. And both parties were in favor and accommodating regarding that. They both understood that that's where it was. As Mr. Delahunt had stated, it's the grand juror are their jurors that they need to be responsible for and take care of them. So we are currently looking at spaces in the lower level of the courtroom that can be adapted to create space for a grand jury. And that way there's ample parking at that particular facility. And that'll help some of the congestion in 325. In addition, one of the requests that the DA has made, even during the questionnaire period, was they were looking for additional space in their office. And so if we're able to move grand jury out of its current conference room that's located on the upper floor on 325, moving that grand jury down to the courtroom, that would provide the ability of modifying and making that room slightly smaller to accommodate additional space for the DA's office. So I just wanted to make sure the committee members, recognize that, I'm still working on those items with the DA.
I had one question. I'm assuming between the surveys and the interviews and the site visit that these plans reflect not only current needs, but capacity to grow.
Yes. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, one of the early concepts has been based on the construction of the building, as I identified and mentioned in the past, is that it provides the ability for an open floor plan. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to utilize cubicles and movable partitions for some of the offices, because that provides the flexibility to increase the density from what we currently have shown to add additional staff members in the future.
And we have one electrical room for the entire building.
No.
Multiple electrical.
Yeah,
rooms?
yeah,
Okay, I didn't keep count of those.
Yeah,
looked
I
at
can
it.
tell you there is plenty of power at this particular location.
And the Board of Elections has their own server room because they have
Yes.
distinct servers.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's actually a front server room, located in the upper right-hand corner.
So
Right.
Board of Elections will have their own dedicated room in here,
They
just
have
to their department.
Yeah, and we've
It's
already-
not shared.
Right. And we actually conducted a site visit with MIS regarding that, what they felt was appropriate size for that server room.
So.
Right there.
In this existing, there's an existing partition in here today. This is kind of storage, area for the existing, but in here is all the building's IT. So that's gonna be corralled by the Board of Elections. And, that's gonna be their own, there's what we call DMARC, meaning the telecommunications comes in there. We've got power in there. They're gonna put their servers in there just for that department. And then throughout the building for electrical, if we just slide down a little bit. As I was mentioning, this area, along the back door is little alcoves. Typically, there's an electrical panel on each wall, inside wall. So there's power distributed to those areas already. Whether we have to pull new lines and, go back to those panels, but there's power pretty much at every location. As you go left down the building, down towards the river.
Ray can touch on that. Brenda said do you want to mention the charging station location?
Yeah, if we can go to the main, the first drawing. Oh, actually, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you, Kelly. So one of the things we're working on, with National Grid and NYSERDA is EV charging stations for the building. So we're looking at a dual part, station, located in the upper left-hand corner of the building, going down along the building. Yeah, those first two spots. So we're working with Livingston Energy, to go ahead and actually do that. So I've actually been in touch with them. They're in the process of design. They've reached out to National Grid, and their planners are supposed to be out to, 401 Courthouse and 11 Warren as soon as next week. Regarding the planning for those. DPW is forthcoming.
Cars will be here.
I heard that. That's why I called Livingston Energy specifically regarding that.
All right.
So one last question. If, comment period for supervisors, when would you like us to get our comments back to you?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Again, as soon as possible. I really don't want this to linger. I plan on getting together with the department heads, early next week, and I'll be reaching out to,
The conundrum.
well, I actually, how's May 31st?
Okay. Yeah.
Again, keep in
There's a
mind,
holiday in there
so
too,
please
right?
keep in mind, this is
Gotta
not to
work
say the
through the
final,
holiday, right?
yeah. And again, this is for concept as far as
Right.
departments and overall.
Right, overall scope.
Overall scope as far as layout, not saying, this wall needs to be moved from point A to point B or anything of that detail.
I do.
But I do want to keep this process.
I want to say something that we're fortunate to have a county engineer such as yourself. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
You're doing a nice job. Thank you.
A lot of time, and again, I go back to, the department heads that we've been working with. Again, during the questionnaire, during the interview, they've been super to work with, and it's made this entire process. It's a daunting task, there's no question, but they've made it work very well, working with myself as well as the consultants that the county has. And with respect to this particular building, I think I've mentioned in the past, S3 was involved with a retrofit that took place as far as the classroom. So they're very familiar with the building as well, which is huge in order to, again, keep this.
Should be a good discount.
Forgot everything.
Right, yeah.
I think it would be helpful to the community, to the city of Hudson, to sort of understand, like, what are some of the peak traffic issues around, like, Board of Elections that sign, I mean, I'm your neighbor here, people line up in the alley to vote. You know, there are days when there's how many, 50 people voting, waiting in line. So there's gonna be a concentration down there.
Had lines like that, in the past couple of years, that was, you saw those.
You don't predict that this year?
Well, remember, there was only one voting site back then too.
Right, we had one early voting site, now we have two. We have the site up in Kinderhook. We are predicting, a higher volume of the presidential. And Mara and I, you know, we're already talking about how we'll handle that, but, when Ken was here, he had it, you know, he had the time down, we processed one voter every 30 seconds.
I know, but people are coming in from all over. They're not just Hudson people. You know, how many people are coming into each space at different times? I think it gives us a feeling of how many people are going to be trafficking into this. And this is the downtown of Hudson, so they're driving the entire city to get to this spot. And they're going to be parking and getting out. And
Yeah, presidential election 2 weeks.
I know it's not just your department, but it's all of them. I think it would give the residents of Hudson who are, you know, are continuing to be very frustrated by this plan. I think it to give some assurance or give some idea of how this is going to work for our city, because it is our main street and people are wanting to know, what does this mean for our community?
Board of Elections does not get many visitors.
I know, but other departments do. And the reason I talk about the security, because I know that there's officers that sit in each department right now. And sometimes I think extremely uncomfortable spaces, like probation, 610, there's 2 people sitting in the entryway, that if we're gonna add those security spots, that they have sufficient place to sit. That was why I brought it up. It's not just the entry, but I don't know how you're gonna deal with that. And I heard one discussion, but I'm not convinced that's gonna be satisfying to people who may feel uncomfortable that they don't have somebody sitting at the entry of probation or, anyway, that was my comment about security.
Thank you. Any other comments, given to Ray? Is there any comments from the public as pertaining to, the layout of that the architects have presented?
I just wanted to provide everyone with a resolution that was unanimously passed by the Common Council of Hudson, and we're in opposition. And you know that. But not everybody is able to attend all the meetings, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew by having a copy.
Oh, we hope that by you attending today's meeting that you gain some insight as to, you know, what the plans are. And I know sometimes we get these rumors and people have misunderstandings, so I appreciate you being here so that
We're really
you.
clear on what's gonna happen, and Linda brought up a great point. I'm on the parking committee.
Mhm.
We don't have enough parking. The people who own the parking is the county. Those are the biggest amounts of parking spaces here. And this is on our main drag, so.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but for the record, can you just give your name?
My name's Jennifer Belton. I'm a 4th Ward council member.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Question. Yes.
My name is Clark Lehman. I'm a first ward resident.
Okay.
I guess I'll just give a short bio to relate to my question. I had the good fortune of overseeing the programming of a very large, 180,000 square foot academic building, including 120,000 an adjunct building.
Yep.
So I have some level of expertise in space policy.
Good.
Couple items that I've brought really this entire discussion. Number one, I appreciate the part of that your engineers, comment,
Yep.
comment that, the building is a strip mall design. It was built in 1985, so clearly it is a strip mall design. This group is acknowledging that, and thank you for the engineer to acknowledge that. Number two, I appreciate Linda's comments on very expensive storage. So this storage unit, so this building has part calculations per your numbers of $477 per square foot price, which is, I believe, exorbitant relative to the comment on storage. And I guess number three, Ray's comment relative to open floor plans. Clearly, my takeaway, given some expertise in programming, that it appears to me that the county is attempting to shoehorn spaces into an existing building. And believe me, I understand the notion of shoehorning into limited space, limited resources, etc. However, given the fact that it is an expensive storage space and a strip mall design, our report indicates that, and I'm asking you this question, have you looked at other spaces that are comparable, which is open floor plan, strip mall design, dramatically cheaper, and frees up this building for other uses, given the fact that it's a strip mall design out of context in a historic, dense, walkable city. So this building clearly is counter to Hudson's historic design. The county is proceeding to attempt to shoehorn, as I see it, more spaces into this building when there are other options that are larger, cheaper, and in fact, open floor plans that would be easier to design and easier to work with relative to the notion of open floor plans. So my question is really, after that commentary, is did the county look at other areas that had probably better options for your needs? Why have you decided to move into this building?
Yes, the county has looked at many buildings and is constantly looking at buildings. As you know, the county has a lot of buildings and a lot of space needs in total. And I get your point that you would like to see some of the agencies move out of the city. There is that opportunity in the future. There are some departments that can comfortably move outside of the city limits. Some are needed here, some are required
I
to
know
be here.
exactly which ones are needed and which ones can be, so we have a document.
There is a document, I don't have that list in front of me. Board of Elections is one of the ones that is required to be here. I think that probation and public defender's office would like to be, the residents would like them to be here. When, years ago, when we tried to relocate some of the departments outside of the county, there was a big pushback from the city to please stay here, so that has been the past. So there is always, this building is a 30,000 square foot building that's in drastic need of a lot of work. What its options are in the future, there are a lot of options. And so, we spent $10 million on the courthouse renovations years ago to, accommodate some of those. We've got buildings all over the place and many of them need work. This project is solving a small little few problems for the county. It's updating. If you visited the probation or public defender's office 610 and saw what we are proposing to do here for them, and we can talk to the board election staff about the improvement that we would be giving them. We are helping them out, and the price per square foot that you speak of is a very reasonable thing in today's numbers. If we went out to new construction today, we're more than double that. So,
I don't think
but thank you.
I don't answer my question. During this process, of deciding on these units going, or these apartments going into this building, is there a public record of the county looking for other comparable spaces and having a full assessment process by which your needs are met, as opposed to what appears to be the county shoehorning offices into an existing building that you had purchased? So really, the question is, did you look at other options? And can we see that process by which you looked at other options for these offices?
So the only public needs assessment that is public would be the space utilization, which we did in 2018. It was an assessment needs, that's on our county website, I do believe. on the supervisor's website. I don't know, Kelly, if that's available. I can, you know, a document is available. And that assessed all of our county buildings and tried to get prices on what it's gonna cost to maintain them over the next 5, 10, 20-year period, you know.
Yeah, I think the core question here is not the 2018 report.
Yeah.
It is, at the point last August, when the county decided to purchase this building for twice the price, by the way, the Galvin paid for, they bought it a couple of years earlier, when that decision was made, what other buildings did you look at before you decided that this was set building? I think that's your question.
And you're looking for public documentation and they don't have it, so.
I'm asking you, what did you consider? You may or may not have documentation, but
Right.
surely you consider some.
So
Sure.
can I just?
Can you share that?
Sorry.
In time, yes. It's in time.
Did you look at the building?
Yes,
Okay, and you didn't tell us which one?
no, but I can,
And then why,
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm first.
because I'm only one supervisor, so
I'm
it
I'm the first
collectively,
ward council
people,
member.
yeah,
This is in my ward.
Yeah.
I think that the public has a right to know what your deliberations were. We operate all of our meetings and all of our deliberations completely open.
and
So
we
I
did,
cannot
all of this
understand
was
why you
conducted
cannot
in
share
public
this.
meetings, and,
But
you know,
why,
You were in executive session for 6 months though.
this was not, it's just, no, this was not shared publicly. Right now, you're telling us that you won't even tell us what other buildings you looked at, so clearly it was not a public meeting. By definition.
there was public, there was other thoughts, and those thoughts could, you know, everybody has thoughts.
Well, if a forum of you on the committee were having talks.
No, it wasn't a forum of people that might support other buildings.
Look at pricing, it was one.
All right, any other questions? Yes.
Hi, this is Vicky Vascaluti. I'm 24 council member. I lived in Chatham for over 30 years and in Jackson now last 3 years.
Mhm.
I have I bought and sold over houses and buildings from the county for the third parties have been there. And I can just tell you that this is not a financially sound plan for taxpayers' money. I'm also part of the parking committee, and Thursdays and Fridays, warrant is absolutely crazy. And there's no municipal parking in that area. So that's gonna be a problem. And last night, at the formal meeting, our city hall was packed with people, workers from the hospital, saying how they don't have anywhere. And now they used to take, taxpaying money and use it for storage. I find it unthinkable. And I'm like. Representatives.
You've got the ear of most all the supervisors, and we will continue to evaluate your thoughts and concerns.
So I believe, Clark here is the author of the report that was delivered to you. Donna also worked on that report. She unfortunately couldn't be here today. And I believe that you and Donna were hoping to be able to meet with the supervisors.
Yeah,
Full
so-
board, schedule a meeting to discuss.
I want to thank the chairs on reply to us as we sent the report to everybody, thanking us for this information documentation. I trust that all the supervisors have a chance to read that. It's very detailed, but there's a lot dated there on number one, inventory of county properties in the city of Hudson.
Mhm.
And number two, really, analyzing other options. And I know, a couple of options came up in my mind during this conversation, given the fact that as you described, this is a suburban strip mall building. There are two options among the four that we describe as suburban, that are in the suburban strip malls, perhaps in parks. So I would very much appreciate, thank you, Margaret, the opportunity for Donna and I to come and present the document that we have put together. A huge amount of work, a very professional piece of work, I believe. Good comments so far from people who have read it, and we very much respectfully ask that we can come and present that to the attorney.
Let me take that into consideration. I did see the document. I haven't studied it. We haven't broke it down. Most of that document, most of the proposals in your thing that I first caught at first glance related to renting. And my personal opinion is, and we've got other supervisors that can agree or disagree, is that I think we're better off for the county to own our own facilities. I know that in the short term, it looks cheaper to rent, but in long term, I think it's much better, to own some of those buildings. You know,
I
so-
asked you to show that information and that data. I know that got to it, but one of the options for that was a purchase of a commercial condominium, which would be in the jail Edwards building, which would also be significantly cheaper. So the county could proceed with the purchase. I understand the value of purchasing long-term. There's a scenario in there, and I'm sure there's more that we haven't come up with that the county could consider as a purchase. That would be a better deal for county and city taxpayers.
We did look at the John L. Edwards building years ago, and at that time, the city wanted to, kind of get involved and take over most of it. So we stepped back to allow them to do that. Since then, there's been other offers on the table. I do understand that HCC has a contract now. You know, if they developed it and had space for rent, I think that we could entertain it at all. But, I need to see that happen first, you know, and I don't know where that project is exactly.
Again, I just want to make a quick comment. My understanding is that they would be open to a commercial condominium, meaning there would be parts of it carved out, much like any other condominium, it's an administrative process by which it's condoized.
Mhm.
And the area that the county would purchase from them, again, as a scenario, I understand the obstacles to overcome, but as a scenario, purchase space in there. Number one, open floor plan, could design whatever the hell you want. Two, cheaper storage, and obviously easily accessible with parking. So.
It has elevators, you can get the voting machines up and down really easily.
And this is all on one floor, so it'll accommodate that. Yes.
So you made a reference to long-term, better to purchase this for long-term, et cetera.
Yeah.
Long-term for the county, that entire block of Warren, which is right as you come up from the river.
Yeah.
Is prime real estate that could have been developed for housing, which
So,
as just indicated, we have housing issues. It could have generated, revenue for the county, from sales taxes. It could have helped alleviate some of the housing issues. It could have been built off, what you're using here cannot be built on top of. And it's just, if you want to talk long term, this really seems to be a very, very myopic, short-term solution, as opposed to taking this opportunity to actually develop that block into something that fits in with the city of Hudson. It's not just about the city, because the city of Hudson also drives a lot of revenue in the county. And to do this on a prime real estate block is the ultimate in short sighted as far as I'm concerned. And when I make that comment because you use the word long term.
Right.
And I don't think this is a long term solution.
Okay, thank you all for your comments and your participation.
Do you have another one?
Yes, Bill?
Yeah, my name is Bill Houston, 558 State Street in Third Ward. Some of your supervisors might recognize my name. Somebody who sent you a couple of emails in the past couple of years. The situation with the sidewalks around 610 State Street. It's in a horrible condition. I totally understand that the county wants to get out of that old building. But my sense has been for the past few years that the county doesn't give a god darn about the city of Hudson. I mean, I shouldn't have to force, I continually send emails to everybody to show you that there's a huge hole in the sidewalk on State Street in front of 6th Street, as well as the sidewalk along 6th Street, which is waiting to put somebody on their chin. So my sense is why isn't the county taking care of business here? It's almost like you disrespect Hudson. This project is an absolute disrespect of Hudson, the future of Hudson, that I want to see be successful. We don't need county buildings down there in that building. My question has to do with parking. For the engineer to say, well, there's plenty of parking during the day, we don't have to worry about that at all. It's just not adequate. That's not the way to go about it. I'm assuming that the county doesn't have to go in front of the planning board with this project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, if you were to go in front of the planning board, you would have to hire a traffic consultant, engineering company, to show the planning board that what you're doing won't have a negative impact on the neighborhood. Sounds like you haven't done a thing about looking at what the impacts are gonna be for parking, which is, you know, maybe it's gonna be minimal. I don't know. Maybe it's not gonna be much, but it sounds like you haven't done anything except maybe take a look and say, well, gee, it looks like there's plenty of parking Monday to Friday during the day. But did you know that, is the engineer aware that the city of Hudson wants to put parking meters all the way to Front Street on Warren? Yes. You're aware of that? So are you gonna have employees parking in metered spaces all day long, Monday to Friday? Yeah, I mean, are they gonna have to go out and fill the meters every 2 hours? Have you considered that? Has that been an issue at all?
We are aware that the city is looking towards metering that area as well as other areas.
Okay, so you've considered that, and you think that employees are gonna be fine with parking their cars on Warren Street and having to fill the meter every 2 hours? How much is that gonna cost?
And again, all we're doing is moving some county employees around the city, to a different location.
I'm sorry,
We're
Ron,
not
but
adding
anybody working
more.
at 610 State Street doesn't have to worry about filling a parking meter.
Not right now, but if the city changed it, then they're
How many,
going to.
I'm curious, how many employees, there's 30 spaces here at 11 Warren, right? How many employees, who are the parking spaces for, I guess?
We haven't allocated, who the parking spaces and designated who the parking spaces are for, they're on site.
So, but as you understand it, employees will have to be parking on the street.
There'll need to be some employees on the street.
How many employees are gonna be in the building?
I don't have the total number handy. I didn't bring that with me.
You don't know how many?
No, I
employees
do.
are gonna be
I
in the
didn't, I did not say that I didn't know. I said I did not have that information with me.
Was it like, is it 10? Is it 30? Is it?
I don't have did not bring the information with me.
My last comment is that in front of 610, or in the parking lot of 610, there's at least 4, maybe 5 city-issued vehicles that sit there for 24/7. Are those vehicles, well, since you're emptying out 610 State Street, are those vehicles gonna be parked in front of 11 Warren Street, taking up 5 parking spaces 24/7?
Not sure what vehicles you're talking about. There's,
And we have talked about relocating some of those cars back out to, highway or different things. There's those
Obviously,
conversations going on all the time. But what we're really talking about today, I've got a couple of consultants here, that, have presented plans for the use of 11 Warren Street, and that's where we need to stay focused right now. I understand you're dissatisfied with 610, and those concerns are heard. Yes. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Tony Malott. I'm the What's Word. I want to ask you a question about this idea of shoehorning people in versus long-term project and gentrify building. Where
excuse me, I don't think we ever use the word shoehorn. Actually, the departments are getting more space than they've had.
Okay, so
Previously.
my question is, how much has the department, all the departments that are coming, how much have they expanded in the last 20 and 30 years?
I would say, right off the top of my head, probation and public defender's office have not expanded greatly in needs. New York State Building Code requires us to have a certain amount of space, per employee and bathrooms and things like that. Board of Elections, staff has grown immensely, probably doubled, right, Kelly, over the last 10 years, and
With early voting and, the increase in voters in Fundy County, we've had to open, more polling places, which means on machines. Since this, I've been here in 2020, we've needed, more, and I think it probably has at least doubled, in the last 10 years.
So if you're buying this building, it's supposed to be for the long term, we just doubled in the last 10 years. How is this building even sufficient? I just saw the plans, it's maxed out already. Why wouldn't you take a big property over in Greenport where you can expand and have some parking and have a bigger building? But I don't understand why you would
Because there's need to stay in Hudson for some offices, so that, you
Board of
know.
Elections has to stay within the.
Right, but if it's board of elections, that would be the entire building, they would have enough space.
You want a motion to adjourn?
Yeah. Make a motion to adjourn.
You get somebody back there. You got one person back there.
Yeah, one more question, and then we need to, move on.
I'm Susan Meyer from the third ward, and I, like many of my neighbors, feel this is a project completely lacking in vision. And my question is, what about, is there a designated smoking area, or is that the same?
Michael was here, she could answer that question better. There is, there's state requirements for that, so that have to be developed along with the union requirements and, like every other building has.
Actually, the health department.
Right, health department governs that, but we have that at our buildings now, but, that'll be determined in the future. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Question to me, esteemed group here. My name's Lloyd Ketting. I am your voice of reason. Now, I do understand wholly that it's not a requirement that you present yourself before the planning board. But as an indication of your good faith and your kindly concern for the people of this great city, would you not, Frank, would you not consider putting and getting input from the planning board? You may find that they have something of value to offer to you.
I think it's not a bad idea.
Thank you.
I don't know why you wouldn't.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks, for your participation.
Terrible idea.